Hey
Hey,
mamas,
mamas.
welcome back to another episode. I'm Jess.
I'm Erica.
Guys, just before we get started and before we introduce our guest today, very random. Did you know that Pornhub did coronavirus porn? I know this has got nothing to do with the conversation we're about to have, but I don't know how I came across it. Don't ask me. But they were having sex in like hazmat suits.
Mama's Code.
Today we'll be speaking to Daisy, mother of two. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. And you?
We are doing great. I just wanted to say before we get into this episode is that I really, I speak for myself and Erica, is that we really appreciate you coming on and talking about your story, because we know that it can be uncomfortable for some parents and everyone. I think everyone is sometimes in different parts of their journeys, and some are more open than others. So we really appreciate you coming on and sharing your journey.
It's been one hell of a journey. So I have a disabled daughter. My daughter has quadriplegic cerebral palsy, and she also has it's always hard to remember all of the main things. Epilepsy, a curve in her spine. She just recently had an operation for her hip because it's coming out of place, and yeah, so it's one of those journeys where you think it's not going to happen to me, but then it happens, and then you just have to work with it and give.
How old is your daughter?
She's turning 10 in June.
Oh, so you had them pretty close together.
Yeah, they're actually 5 days, almost 2 years apart, but a year and 5 days apart. Is it a year? Almost, yeah, something like that.
Did you want a really close age gap?
I wanted to, but so before I got pregnant with my daughter, I had an ectopic pregnancy. And so I was meant to wait about 18 months to get pregnant. And we thought, just wait. We'll try next year. And then it happened. And I think she just wanted to come.
So if you go back 9 years ago, when obviously you found out you were pregnant, maybe like run us through how you told your husband and how your pregnancy was overall, walking us to that moment when you were told that obviously your daughter had a disability.
My pregnancies are very weird. So that year we went to Africa, and then I started, when we come back, we went in Africa in July. September I started work. November I was feeling sick. I wasn't well, so we ended up in hospital. We did a pregnancy test, because before you had to see the GP before you saw the emergency doctor. And so she did a pregnancy test, and it was negative. So we're like, okay, we're not pregnant, it's fine. Then there must be something going on. They thought I had malaria. And then about 45 minutes later, they did a second pregnancy test in the emergency room, and then it came up positive. And the doctors were like, I've never seen this happen before. What the heck? It was very, very weird. And throughout the whole pregnancy, it was completely fine. My 12-week checkup was fine. At 20 weeks, she didn't let see whether we were having a girl, but I told my husband, it's a girl. So then I plan to have one of those 3D test exams. 27 weeks, we had the 3D scan, and that's when they told us she had fluid on her brain. I made an appointment with my midwife, and then they were like, oh, we have to wait and see. They did lots of tests. They asked me every appointment, the first 3 appointments after that, they were like, do you want to have an abortion? Do you want to have an abortion? Do you want to have an abortion? I was like, no, if she's meant to be here, she's meant to be here. There's no way I'm going to go through it. And then the doctor that I saw, she was meant to talk to me for like a good 35 minutes, but I only got 5 minutes of that conversation. And she said to me, well, we're going to have to wait until she's born. And she didn't say anything else. And yeah, but apart from that, they were doing lots of scans. We're doing the scans every 2 weeks just to see how much the water on her brain came. It didn't grow too much, but then at 36 weeks, we moved houses, so we changed hospitals. In the other hospital, they told me that she was going to have hydrocephaly, which means that there is a lot of fluid on her brain, and she might need a shunt when she was born. As soon as she was born, she's going to need an operation. She's going to need a shunt. Then second hospital that I moved to, they told me, no, her head is on the smaller side because she's already downwards. We can't check, but she's not going to need a shunt. She's not going to need anything. And so for the next 4 weeks, I was being checked all the time and seen. And then I had to have a planned C-section. I wanted to try natural birth because with my son, I had a emergency C-section. And when she was born, we had pediatrician, we had all these nurses, we had the NICU. Everyone was in that room and it was busy and everything. And when she came out, she was fine. She was breathing on her own. She weighed like 9 pounds, 8 ounces. So she was a big girl. And she had the huge cheeks and it was like, oh my gosh, and a lot of hair. So yeah. The first day of her being born, she had an MRI. And that's when they literally told us that she wasn't going to do anything. She was literally going to not be able to recognize me. She wasn't going to be able to talk. She wasn't going to smile. She was just going to live a life where she doesn't know anything.
How did you feel hearing that at that point?
Do you know what? I think at the time, because I just had the C-section, I was still a bit loopy and everything. And then because my husband went with her to get the MRI done, and then he came and told me all of this. And I was like, okay, all right, we were expecting this. We just need to see how it goes. The thing is, she was healthy. She already got the doctors wrong when she came out. So we thought, it is what it is. Just continue with it. Part of me at some point felt that, I didn't want to bond with her in case something happened, because they also told us at that time that she was going to have epilepsy. And we know epilepsy is one of those where anything can happen. And I found it very hard to bond with her the first few days because I didn't want to love her and then lose her. I think it was 3 days after we were out of the hospital, we were just sitting, just the two of us. I was changing her nappy. And then just when it hit me that even if I felt like I didn't bond with her, we already bonded and there was so much love there. And yeah. And then at 3 months old, we saw the neurologist. And I took my son with me. He was with the hospital with us. And my daughter kept staring at her brother and smiling. And the neurologist said to me, looking at her and looking at her MRI results, it's like looking at two different people, because she should not be doing the things that she's doing right now. And that was the first and the last time we saw the neurologist, because then he sent us to do some tests. She had a spinal tap. She had a CT scan because they just wanted to make sure that she didn't have this degenerative disease where even though she grows, at some point she just goes back, and then towards the end, she could pass away. But she was fine. They don't know the cause as to why she has all these issues. But
so when you guys were discharged from the hospital all the way up to the first time you saw the neurological doctor, did she show you signs that she was a bit delayed on development of milestones, or did she seem absolutely fine?
You know what? She seemed absolutely fine. She was smiling. She was just happy. She didn't cry as much unless she wanted food. And she was very nosy. She likes to see what is around her. Even till this day, she likes to know everything that's happening around her. She was very lively. And so we thought, it's one of those where, because I had my son, I already knew how a baby is, and to me, it seemed like she was normal, normal. And but I found myself that I'd rather be more of a realistic. And even though she seemed normal, I knew that she wasn't. And I had my family telling me, oh no, you just have to have faith, she'll be okay, she's gonna do these things and everything. And I think at some point I kind of snapped and I said to them, listen, if you can accept it, that's fine, but I have accept what it is. And rather than me having waiting for her to do things that I know she's not going to do.
False expectations.
Yeah, exactly. So I'd rather just continue watching her and see how she does it, rather than me pushing her. Everything is at her own pace.
Can I ask you something? In terms of when you said that you didn't want to attach yourself to her, how did you cope mentally? Because, I mean, it must be very draining to think I've carried this baby for this amount of time. It must have been daunting to know that she potentially was going to be a disabled child because of everything the doctors were saying, and time after time, doctors keep just pushing so much information in you, and even sometimes misdiagnosing, and then you get another doctor saying something else. So in your head, it was kind of like, what do I believe? And somehow I believe you still maybe had a bit of hope that they were just all wrong anyways. Because, had you kind of like gone with let me just have an abortion, then you wouldn't have this beautiful girl that you have now, because they were wrong. So mentally, how did you cope with, obviously you've already got so much from like the time you've carried her and the misinformation you've gathered, to it's made you so scared to attach yourself to your baby because you already have that, they've also told me that she might die, so I don't want to attach myself to this child just in case I have to let her go.
It was hard. I think when she was born, I stopped thinking about myself and I stopped trying to get on my head. I mean, when I had time by myself, or I would just cry, and it's still a bit of a sore spot. But yeah, I think I would just cry, and I'll be like, okay, we're giving her for a reason. She's here for a reason. The doctors are wrong all the time. She's already proved them wrong. I just need to love her, rather than me thinking, I don't want to have to go through whatever. If we may lose her, but I want her to know that she was loved. And that's what kept us going. When they told us, she's fine, it got easier, because we knew that we were going to have more time with her, especially after them telling us that, she can have a degenerative disease and she can die. And sorry. And we're like, I think that was that's one of the scary moments, because having a small son who adores his sister, and then thinking that she might not be here with us, and him asking questions and everything. He was already very overprotective of her. And those first few months were one of the hardest ever, because I think at some point it's just, I don't really remember throughout going through all these appointments and just, doing all of this. It's just kind of a blur.
Mama, I love you.
Do you think that the fact that you went through an ectopic pregnancy made you want to go through with her pregnancy? I mean, I know it was very far on when they gave you the option of abortion, but do you think that played a big part?
No, I mean, my husband and I had this conversation even before we had my son, and we said to ourselves, if we're meant to have a child with the special needs, because I work in a nursery before, so I've seen children with autism and with disabilities. And so I said to my husband, if we have a child with disabilities, we're not going to have an abortion. I don't believe in an abortion for myself, but, if a woman wants to do whatever she wants to do with her body, then that's okay. As long it's nothing to do with me. So we already put that on the table. It wasn't going to happen. It wasn't even a thought that crossed my mind about me having an abortion with her.
You've got the all clear that, you know, she is going to be with you for much longer. And although you've already said you had already started to enjoy her, and it's about making memories, you know, because you got told she wasn't going to smile, you know, she wasn't even going to know who you were. And clearly she did. She knew all of this. So now that you've kind of let go of that fear, how was like every milestone from then on out? Because obviously I'm assuming, comparing it to your first child, it was completely different, right?
Yes, I think I read somewhere that, you know, when we have a child with disabilities, we tend to cheer on the milestones more than when we have a typical child. And it really stuck with me, because although I cheered on my son's milestones, I felt that it was more special when she did it, because we were all, you know, cheering her on, and we're all, oh my gosh, she's smiling. Oh my gosh, you know, she says mama, she says dada. And so, yeah, I think it is a lot different. And everything that she did, it was something that she wasn't meant to do. And there's me saying, you got the doctors got it wrong. You got my baby, you know.
Erica, does that not remind you of when Katie used to do new things and you were like, oh, Joel's done that already?
I know, so bad.
So rude.
But it's not that. It's just, I always say it, and it's always like a joke, because I think, like, because I went through so much depression after, well, not after Joel, but like just after becoming a mum, I always say that Caden was like my saving grace, because I literally don't know if I'd be here if it wasn't because of him. So I joke around and I always say, you know, oh, you know, Caden, don't even try to show off. We've seen it with Joel. But in the reality is that little boy has me literally, he controls me with his little finger. So I can only imagine, you know, if we celebrate the second, like say for me, and I always find it so cute, because obviously Joel's, like, my child is 3 years older than, so they're 3 years in between them. So everything you've lived with your first, yes, you kind of know what's expected with your second. For you, it might be different, but you still cheer it on, because you still have like, oh, my baby's growing up, and, you know.
Still magical.
Yeah, and I'm guessing for you, it's like, yes, let's, come on. You need to keep proving these doctors wrong. And it's just like, it's literally like magic is happening, like in your eyes, because you're seeing this little human being that was supposedly not meant to touch earth because of everything the doctors had diagnosed her with, and she's thriving in life.
It is one of the most amazing things to watch. I mean, a year later, we had an appointment with the same doctor that told us all these things that she wasn't going to do. And he looked at her, and then she was smiling, and she was saying mama. She understands Spanish. And I was talking to her in Spanish, and the doctor says to me, I saw you when she was born. She's not meant to be doing any of those things, but you know what? I think you're doing a really good job, because, you know, she's thriving, and she's saying mama, because at the time he was like mama everything. So I think he was more impressed, and I was like, yes, in your face. I just wanted to scream, in your face. But yeah, it is one of those moments where you feel, you know, you do feel proud. I mean, I felt proud with my son when he did all those things. But with her, it was a whole different moment of pride with her, because, you know, she's just, I don't know. I don't even know how to explain it.
Sorry, the same way you feel so excited and so, you know, powerful to see your daughter do these things that she wasn't supposed to do you sometimes dwell on, like, knowing that perhaps she will never do some of the things? Like, she's in a wheelchair because she can't walk. Does that affect that? Or
yeah.
So obviously, those things kind of put you down as well? Like, oh, my baby will never do this.
For the first few years, it did. Like, it was one of the things I used to compare her with other children. I'm like, oh my gosh, my baby's never going to walk. My baby's never going to do this. She's never going to have her first kiss. We're never going to be able to go and get manis or pedis. And, you just don't think of the things that she's missing as a child, but you think of the things that you're missing as she grows up, having a daughter so the way I see it is my mom and I have a really close relationship. And so for me, it's like, I'm not going to have that with my daughter. Even though we're close, I'm not going to be able to do the things that I do with my mom. And I'm not going to see her get married and everything. And it was really, really hard. I think I cried so many times to my husband and at night. And we were like, it's hard. And I know he was trying to be strong for me. He's like, but, she's here, she's happy. That's all that matters. And I think she went to school when she was 2.5. She goes to a special needs school. And they put her in a walker. And the first person she walked to was me. And I was like, I cried. And I think, as much as I said, I'm not going to share those moments with her. We're sharing lots of different moments and we're making lots of different memories. So now it's not as hard because I have learned not to compare her to other children because I realized that not all the children are the same. And even though all children are perfect in their own way, she's perfect in her own way and she's just the way that she was meant to come. Yeah, I think that has helped me a lot in this past few years. So, yeah.
I mean, there's a silver lining. Like most women that have girls, they'll be worrying and be like, oh, my daughter's going to leave me one day. She probably want to stay with you forever.
I said this to my husband, I think this is not to be mean or anything, but sometimes I looked at her attitude because she's really stubborn and she really has attitude. So I looked at my husband, I'm like, I think it's a good thing she doesn't do any of those things because, she will be, me compra, me vende, me compra, me vende. We will be done with her. We will really be done with her. And because her brother and her dad spoil her rotten, so she gets away with everything, it's fine. So we learn to just appreciate her just as she is because otherwise we'll be in so much trouble.
And the thing is, we've seen obviously videos that you've put on Instagram and she looks so cheeky. Like her smile, it's like she really knows what she's doing and she knows she's pushing your buttons, but her smile is just like, I'm getting away with it.
And she does. So she likes different noises. She has this weird sense of humor and she loves farting noises. She likes burping noises and she thinks they're the most funniest thing ever. And we have moments where she farts and we're like, ew, Bella, you're so gross. And because I talk to her in Spanish, so I'm like, sucia, cochina. And she thinks it's hilarious because if I don't say that to her, she slaps me until I actually say that to her. So one day I was walking in the room and she was in my bed and I heard her farting. I was like, ew, Bella, you're so gross. And then she looks at me, she's like, no, mama, Dada. Daddy wasn't in the room. He walks in and he's like, Bella, that was not me. She's like, Mama, Dada. And I was like, oh my God. But yeah, she has lots of attitude. If I tell you the story, you will think, oh my gosh, she's terrible. She really is terrible. But she's funny. So my son is very, he's funny. He throws, he comes with his own things and everything. But I think with her, because of her attitude and the way she does things and the way she gives you dirty looks when she doesn't get what she wants. It's just watching them is like having two different little people that are like clowns that makes you laugh because they come and do so many things different. And you're like, it's like a circus in this house.
How does having a child with a disability affect your son?
At first, I think he used to ask questions and he used to be like, why doesn't she walk? Why can't she talk? why can't she do this? Why can't she do that? And I had to explain to him and said to him, when Bella, her name is Bella, she was a baby, her brain didn't grow as well as yours did. And so she has a disability. There are many things that she won't be able to do. And I think it has helped him. It is hard because sometimes even now he's like, Mommy, I am so sad that my sister can talk to me. I am so sad that, she's not going to be able to run with me or play video games with me. And sometimes the things he says actually make me cry. And I'm like, oh, baby, I wish things were different. I wish, you had the little sister that could do all those things with you. But, you have your sister who loves you. And even though she might hit you or she might pull your hair and everything, she loves you and she wants you cuddles every morning before you go to school and everything. So, it doesn't make up for it, but, you're loved because her showing your love is way different of how another child will show your love to their siblings. And even though, you fight, that she won't, I kind of joke around with him and I'm like, she's not gonna talk back to you. She's not gonna rat you out when you do something. So he's like, yeah, that's fair. He was there when she was born. So he was one of the first people to actually hold her when she was born. So they have this huge, it's not huge. They just have this bond between the two of them. And even now, he's like on his phone, he has a picture of the two of them together. He's like, she's my little sister. I love her. And whenever their friends ask them, yeah, my sister is disabled. She has a disability. And they were like, but why is she disabled? She's like, because her brain didn't grow the same way as you and me. I know it's not the easiest ways to explain, but I think for him, it makes it easier. Sometimes it's hard. It is hard, especially when he's by himself and he wants to do something with his sister. And his sister's like, no, I just want mama. I just want to sit with my mom and daddy in between them,
I was going to ask, how has it been? Because obviously that's one part of it, usually you'd assume that you have a sibling and they want to play with it. That's what like older brothers or older sisters think. Yeah. He's obviously very smart and knows that he can play with his baby sister, but she's just unique and she's just different. I would like to know is has he ever felt like alone? Because obviously she requires a lot more attention, or is he very understanding? Because like, say for me, like my kids are 3 years apart and I had a time with my oldest that he would just try to look for attention because obviously I was always with the baby, I was breastfeeding. You just try to get so much done around the house that you kind of forget because you almost think, oh, well, he's independent. He can kind of do his own thing. And I assume he understands that I have to be with the baby. But sometimes as parents, we forget they also need us.
Yes, I think as she started to grow and we had to do all these appointments and everything, although he understood that, his sister needs a lot more care than he does. I know there were times where he does feel like, like he's an only child. And I know that sometimes when he's had something to do, I haven't been able to go and do something with him because his sister had an appointment. His sister needed this, his sister needed that. And sometimes I know he's like, oh, you give much more attention to her rather than me. And we have tried to work around it and we have tried, to give him more time. And so we do dates with him. We go on a mommy and son date. He goes with his dad and he has a dad and son date, so we have tried to make it easier on him so that he knows that we are there for him and that he knows that, as much as his sister needs us, we also know that he needs us and we are doing everything we can. But I know that the mom guilt is always there. I do feel like sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm failing my son because I'm giving so much attention to my daughter. I'm failing him as a mother not there for him as much as I should.
Yeah, I was about to ask if you ever feel overwhelmed with just everything.
It does. It really does feel overwhelming sometimes. And I think that's when I try to just, be like, okay, I need to let go of the mommy guilt because it's really not going to take me anywhere. I think when he started the school and he had his first sports day and I couldn't be there because I was settling in his sister, and he's like, but mommy, it's my first school sport day. I cried because I couldn't be there. I just cried, and I was like, baby, I am so sorry. I want to be there, but if I leave her by herself, she's just gonna scream the whole place down. And he's very understanding. I am actually very lucky to have him, because I honestly don't know how I would have done if he wasn't the way he is. It's hard. I think it's one of those where it makes you feel very emotional, because you think, oh my gosh, I'm not doing what's right for my child. And then he does something and you think, okay, yeah, I am doing okay. I am not failing him.
You definitely don't look like you're failing. Those two little human beings look like they're so loved. And I think as parents, we usually tend to think that, like, I've had my days where I feel like I'm, being with one child more than the other. And even the smallest things, if like I notice it now more than ever, that say like I'm cuddling with Joel, my eldest, or he drops, let's give an example. He drops and, he wants me to kiss his boo-boo because mommy's kisses are magical and it takes the pain away. And then Caden randomly pretends he's dropped and comes to me and he's like, Mama, jo kaji. And I'm like, firstly, it's not kaji. And I also have to kiss him. So I always notice that kind of like he lures in for attention. And sometimes I feel like he's a baby, so, he needs me. And sometimes you almost think like, how do I split myself in half to give them equally, the love they need? But we can't. We're human beings. We have to take care of ourselves, because if you mentally do not take care of yourself, you're not going to be able to be the best version of yourself for your kids. And it's mentally when you start kind of like doubting your self-worth and what you're giving to your kids, that you start feeling empty inside, and you start like questioning your parenting. Am I doing this right? You have all these what ifs in your mind. And the reality is you're the best parent for your kids, regardless of everything that goes on.
I mean, there has been times where I feel like, he wants more attention. And so for a while, until he was about 9, he used to come to my bed in the middle of the night, and he would come and cuddle me, and he wouldn't go to his dad's side. He would just go straight to my side. And then I'm like, okay, he wants me to cuddle him and everything. And then my husband would be like, he's getting older. He needs to stop coming to our bed. I'm like, he's going to get to a time where he will not come to our bed, and then we'll miss it because, he's not doing that anymore. She comes all the time to our bed. She lives with us most of the time, so just leave him. And I think it got to the point where it's the 4 of us in the bed, and I'm like stuck on one side, and I'm like, okay, I need to stop doing this. And so both of them, she only comes to my bed in the mornings, and then he doesn't come to my bed anymore. But there were times where I would wake up and I'll be like feeling their head and everything. I'm like, which kid is this? Like, which kid is this? And then I feel his hair and I'm like, okay, that's my son, okay. And then when I feel, and I'll be like touching their face, I'm like, oh gosh, you came here, because she likes to be all over on my chest, and she likes me to cuddle her and a lot. We are humans, we're doing the best that we can as parents. And I hope that, one day he realizes that even though sometimes, yes, I failed as a mom, that he's loved, and, and although his little sister is one of the top priorities, he's also a top priority in a different way, but both of them are, priorities for us.
Do you ever feel socially isolated?
I did at the beginning, when I used to drop my son to nursery. We used to go, to the baby classes and everything. And then all these children will be there and they will be crawling and everything. And then I have to support my daughter to sit down. And I think everybody would just look at me weirdly. And then when they asked me what was wrong, it would just be like, they would give you this look of pity and, they feel sorry for you. And you're like, it makes it awkward. And so you just kind of distance yourself from people so that you don't get that look. You don't feel people feeling pity for you. And I think for a couple of years, I didn't go out. I will go and see my friends, but I would just stay at home. I think I became so depressed about it that I just didn't want to do anything. And as soon as my son started going to school, I started making new friends. And that's when I started coming out of this isolation. I think it's one of those where if the person doesn't understand what you're going through, it's hard for them to know what to say, how to act around it. And I think people just find it difficult to be there. And if you don't have the family around you, it is a journey that you feel like you're doing on your own. And sometimes you lose friends, sometimes you lose people that you care about. And I think it was one of those where you feel like if they're not gonna be around for me, they're not gonna be around for my child, and there's no point me having them in my life, because it's just not me, it's my kids as well. And sometimes it's hard to walk away from there. It's challenging. It's very challenging. And there's not a lot of baby groups with children with special needs, so that you can meet other parents that are going through similar situations. There is not communities, unless you are on Facebook or Instagram, where you can, talk to other parents. You cannot have that. Meet someone face to face and have that connection with them. We're going through this. We can, so have someone to talk to and say to them, this is hard. I don't even know how to explain it. It's just hard being in this journey with people that doesn't understand what you're going through, what you worry about. Yes, we may have some of the same worries about our children, but most of them is not the same worries. Because for me, I worry about my son that something might happen as he grows to school and everything, but I also have this worry that if my daughter has one of those big seizures, she might end up in hospital, and she might end up, in a worse place that she is now.
So like if you were going to go to a baby group, is there no groups specifically for like children with special needs?
I don't think there is a lot of it for children with special needs. There's such a lack of support for parents and children that is really not fair, because I know from the group I manage on Facebook, a lot of parents feel alone, and they feel like they can't find that support system, because sometimes even their families don't want to support them, and they have to rely on people that they never met online, because there's no one for them to support them.
I mean, sometimes it's even easier to talk to a stranger than your own family, because family always tend to bring in judgment, or they just think they know it all, and they'll try and like, oh no, don't worry, I don't think it's that serious. Whereas maybe a stranger will just literally do what you need, is sit down and listen to you and really take in what it is you are saying. Sometimes you tell your family something and it's like the most simplest things, and it's you screaming out for help, but they don't get it. It's like, you've known me for how many years and you can't tell that I'm physically dying inside and I need some help, but they won't. And this is what happens, because again, with mental health, you can't see it. It's not physical. Like, I could be smiling right now and could be thinking, oh my God, I want to kill myself. And this is the problem, because people shy away from being so open, and again, the lack of support you and others with children with disability receive, it's not helpful, because you all have to go through such a lonely journey and a difficult journey. if like, you know, like you say, typical kid's mum have it hard at times, I can only imagine what you go through on a daily basis. But knowing also, oh, actually, I can't turn around and talk to my friend here because she doesn't have a child with disability. So let me just go talk to Bob over here that he does, but I don't. I met him yesterday.
It's always Bob.
It's true. I think in that sense, I feel like I've been very lucky to have my mom and my sister has been supportive, and you know, having, even though there is a small group, they're supportive. And then when I need time out, I'll be like, Mom, I need time. You know, can I just drop her off? Can I just drop them off? And she'll be like, okay, you know, as long as you come early tomorrow, we're fine. And she lets me leave them. And then sometimes I'm like, Mom, I need to go out. I need to just let my hair down. I just need to go and dance. She's like, all right, fine, just leave them here. And, you know, I have that support system, but I know there are not a lot of people who are as lucky as me. And I don't take it for granted, because I know how hard it is to find someone to care for your child, to have that trust, especially to trust someone with your child, and be okay to leave and be like, you know, okay, my child is going to be fine. I can go let my hair down and breathe for a little bit and then come back and do it again. Because I know a lot of people don't have that. And even with my husband, sometimes he's like, you know what, you go out, I'll stay with the kids. And I know that he'll be okay. And he won't need me to do any, you know, he won't be calling me, oh, what do I need to do? What is it that I need to do? Because he's been so involved with her as well. So he has been, you know, we also help each other. And I know that there are people who don't have that. And I know, if knowing that how hard it is for me as a mother and having all that help, I can't even imagine someone else not having that help, not having that village to help them raise their children.
And you know what? I think what you were saying earlier on about people can come across like they've got pity on you and stuff, is that I feel like as a parent with a typical child, you might feel uncomfortable to speak to someone with a child that's disabled, because you don't know how they would react to your feelings, your body language, your questions even. Like I remember when we were planning the episode, we questioned like, would, you know, is it comfortable to say you have a disabled daughter? Because obviously we're not saying it in a mean way, but how do parents feel like this? Because we don't, you know, I'm sure the majority of the population don't want to sound condescending when they're around children with special needs or anything. And you know, there's been times that I've seen mothers that are clearly need a helping hand, you know, something's fallen, but I feel very like, if I approach them to say, you know, here's the blanket, or are they going to turn around and feel like they're less of a mom because I'm helping? And so I think because obviously there's not enough conversation, or, you know, you guys don't have enough support or don't have enough clubs and groups and all of this, that itself isolates you guys and isolates us to be able to, you know, hug you guys and know what it is to have a child with disabilities and know your struggles, because we don't know.
Yeah,
you know?
I think what I've learned along this journey is that we need kindness as a parent, rather than, you know, saying, oh, I'm so sorry that your child was born like that. Why? I'm not sorry. My daughter is just the way that she's meant to be, you know. You don't need to be sorry. If you have a child and the child wants to come and say hello to my daughter, I'm more than happy to say, you know, hi, and explain to them why she's different. Why, you know, I think most parents we will rather have someone come and ask us rather than them not, rather than just looking and not saying anything.
And Sorry, I was going to say, and that might be because I don't know if you've had it, if you've experienced it, but some of it might be because there's parents that look at you guys and other parents and think, why did you decide to bring a child when, you know, the child's going to be in hospital most of the time? Or is it not selfish? Because you get I know I've had family members that would say, oh no, I wouldn't bring a child like this because they'll suffer more. Or but then you see the children like this and they look so happy. So it's like, that's why I was asking you, like, did you know, when you first found out, it's like it never crossed your mind. And it's, I mean, I don't know. I think I just remember back to when we had the scan at the 12 weeks that they measured the fluid, and just waiting for those results. You just feel so much pressure because you start thinking, oh my God, what if there's too much fluid, or what would I do? And you know,
I never did the fluid test. With my son, we didn't do it. We're like, if baby's meant to come, you know, meant to come the way they're meant to come, we're happy. So we never did the fluid with my son. And then when I asked my husband, do you want to do the fluid, you know, the fluid test with her? He's like, we never did it with him. It doesn't make any difference with her. If we do it this time, it's not going to make us love them any less, no matter what happened.
So is that why you found out really late that your daughter had this condition?
No, I think even at 20 week, the 20-week scan, you know, when they tell you the sex and everything was fine. They measure her brain, they told us everything is perfect, everything is fine. And I think along the way, that's when it started happening, rather than me not finding out then.
So it developed over time.
Yeah, because even with the doctors, we have the notes and they were like 20 weeks, everything is normal. And then at 28 weeks, that's when they were like, okay, she's got fluid on her brain. And that's where I think, you know, I said it didn't make any difference whether we did the test or not, because it didn't develop then, it developed later on.
Did they say why this could have happened?
No, but I have a theory.
Okay.
So when I had the ectopic pregnancy, they gave me this injection to have the abortion. We're going to call it abortion because it is an abortion with injection. And so we were told to wait 6 weeks because the injection that they use is they also use it for cancer patients. And I got pregnant exactly 6 weeks after having the injection. And even though we were being using precautions, it didn't
surpass la calentura.
No. And yeah, but when I found out, one of my friends in America says to me, you know, I use that injection myself. They usually tell us to wait between 18 months to a year. And I think that's why it affected her brain, because even when I was having the injection, they said to me, you cannot get pregnant because it will affect the baby's brain if you get pregnant at this time. And although now they tell you, no, it's okay, you can wait 6 weeks. When they give you the injection, they tell you, no, wait 18 months to 2 years before you start trying again. And if this is the reason why when they did all these genetic tests on myself, on my husband, on her, they were never able to find anything. They said, you know, it's a case that we can't figure out. This is when it happened. And as much as you tell them, you know, this is what happened, this is the reason why, they will never going to admit it, never going to say, yes, it's because of that, because they don't want to take responsibility for not telling me, you know, wait this much time rather than the 6 weeks that they told me.
Like, obviously, even if you did wait that time, you were taking, you know, you were using contraceptions, yeah, like, and it just happened. So regardless of however much time she was destined to be in this world.
That's exactly how I feel. And I'm like, you know, no matter how we try, she was meant to be here. So we can do nothing about it. She was meant to come here. She was meant to teach us something, not just me, but all those around her that met her, then see who she is. So, you know, she's here for a reason.
What things have you found that you enjoy about having your daughter?
I love her sense of humor. I absolutely love her stubbornness. She sometimes laughs for no reason. So if I drop something, I pick it up, she thinks it's hilarious. And it's just her not caring what anyone says and just being who she is. The fact that she does things at her own timing. So even if we push her, she's having none of it. Everything is at her own time. No matter how hard you try, if she's not happy doing it, you'll never get her to do it. But then out of the blue, she will start doing it. I think I've focused so much on her sense of humor and who she is, and that I think it's just her. She's got such a beautiful energy. So even when I'm upset and I come and hug her, I feel better.
That's so beautiful to hear. Because, I mean, loads of people will question, and I have, you usually do get the odd, oh, I'm so worried. What if they tell me something's wrong in my scan? Like, what would I do? And that question always, like, goes around people's head. But then you kind of question, like, why? What's wrong with having a child that has a disability? There's nothing wrong with it. Again, like you just need to show it love. You need to make memories because it's your child, regardless of how it comes. If it's meant to be in this world, it's meant to be in this world.
I think it's one of those where having a child with special needs is such a taboo. Even coming from South America, where you have a child with special needs, they will straight away say to you, oh, maybe you did something wrong. Maybe someone give you like mal ojo, and then if it didn't fall on you, it fell on your baby, and that's why it happened. And because it's been like that for so long, it's just we've been conditioned to believe that having a child with special needs it's not good. It's just is one of the worst things that can happen to you.
Yeah, it's like a burden.
Yeah, it isn't. For me, my daughter has been so lucky. Ever since we got her, things have just worked in so many different ways that we're like, oh my gosh, this little girl is so lucky. Everything that has a name on it just happens. And I know that I can say that I can say only that for myself, because I know other parents might feel different, not because they don't love the children, but because they have that conditioning that they believe that having a child with special needs is a burden, and it really isn't.
Well, I think it's very courageous, to be honest. And I think do you know what, I always just think that it, like Erica said at the beginning, it's just magic before your eyes. And to know that your child is continuously proving the doctors and all these theories wrong, it's just like, there is no argument to this. So just before, we start wrapping up the episode, what do you wish you could tell others but you don't usually get the chance to, around your situation?
I think is just be kind, because you don't know what that person is going through. Like I said before, if you see someone with a child with special needs, it's okay to talk to that person. Don't feel embarrassed, because she might just be needing to hear kind words. Yes, that person might react differently, but it might be because that the parent might be having a bad day. Maybe they got a bad appointment, and things when didn't go the way that they planned, and just with kindness. And one thing that I think that we as parents appreciate the most is talk to the child as you will talk to another child, because you making the effort to include the child in the conversation means a lot to us. Even if you just say, hi, how are you? The baby may not respond, the child may not respond, but you are acknowledging that child. It does make us happy that someone is not just ignoring a child, but acknowledging them.
And I can see that being classified as your golden tip for this episode, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Daisy. It's been lovely to have you on and hear anything. And
First of all, thank you for having me. I know that my way of expressing myself is a bit different and difficult because sometimes I think in English and sometimes think in Spanish.
Same. Sometimes we say things and we hear back the recording and we're like, what the hell?
Yeah. Like sometimes I have to tell Jessica, now you need to cut that word out. It doesn't make sense. Like sometimes I say words that don't exist in the dictionary, but in my head it sounds...
It makes sense.
Yeah, like I'm just like, that definitely has to be a word. But no.
Yeah. This is why I'm like, I find it a bit hard. I'm like, I said to my husband, I'm doing an interview, I'm having a chat with these girls, and I'm like, what if I fail? But like, what if I don't explain myself properly and I say what I want to say? But he's like, you'll be fine. I'm like, okay. But yeah, I think so. Thank you for having me. My child, I know there are children that are different and parents may feel different, but we're in the same journey, but we're just different. I hope that makes sense. It's like we're walking the same journey, but there's always
different obstacles.
Yeah.
It's been really lovely, and I think, it's my first time speaking with a parent that has a special needs child. So for me, it's very like kind of breaking that barrier. Like I was saying earlier, sometimes you feel like shit, like how do I? But in reality, like you just said, we're all mums. We're all on the same journey of parenting.
And I think what you guys doing with the, with this, I think is bringing awareness to everyone, not just about parenting, but everything that comes with it. It's a good thing. I actually enjoy listening to you guys. So it's always something new to learn, even for me.
Can I ask something? Like you cannot answer if you want, but I'm just curious. And I'm sure other people that will listen will be kind of curious to know. As a parent, like say like for me and Jess, this is what kind of happens. We kind of know that our time with our children will eventually come to an end because, they will reach a certain age and they don't want to live with us anymore. But we also have that saying, like Jess says, that, when she's in her like 40s, 45s, that she can go and travel the world. How does it feel for you knowing that your daughter needs you all the time?
It's something that I think about it all the time. And I'm like, at some point I would like to travel and do things, because my kids are old enough. But I said to my husband, it's fine. We'll carry her with us. If we want to travel, we'll just go with her. It's completely fine. We'll just have to work a way around it. We have to work a way around traveling with her because she's heavy and everything. So we'll find a way to do the same thing so that she has the same experiences that we have and that her brother has. I think for me, knowing that she's going to stay with me, it makes me happy, but at the same time sad because although I wouldn't want her to go, I wouldn't want, anyone else looking after her. I will have preferred for her to have her own life and do her own thing and be her own person and discover the world, because I know for a fact that she's a daredevil. I know that she will be doing things that I wouldn't do or her brother wouldn't do.
I'm going to recommend a destination before we go. If you, honestly, Machu Picchu, like it sounds insane, but when I did it, so listen to me, there's men like viejitos that are 80-year-olds that have much more strength than we do. I remember with my backpack, I had like 5 kg on the back because you have to pack minimal. And on the second day, I was like, Jay, I can't do this anymore. I'm going to pay one of Los Viejitos too. Because because, some people have asthma and they don't want to carry and stuff. So they make it suitable for absolutely everyone. And I was like, I'm going to pay him. How much do I pay for un viejito? And he carries, there was 20 of us and he carried everyone's bags. And the kitchen stuff, the pans, the food, the water, absolutely everything. So you can go Machu Picchu and they can carry your daughter and you will have the most breathtaking views ever. Mama's Code out. Mwah.
Mama's Code.